Hi Annette, this is Sister Finch. I was just looking at the color comp that you submitted for the final, and I'm pretty impressed. I know you've said that you struggled with this and that you've had a hard time this semester, but from what I've seen, you've been doing really, really well, and I'm so happy for you. And I hope that you have enjoyed this class. Um, but as far as your color comp goes, it's looking really good so far. There are a couple of little things that I'm going to suggest. And it's just because they're requirements for the final mostly. So don't stress because I think it's a really nice design. I like the circle shape, in the middle of this design. I think it kind of adds a nice element. And then you have these shapes that break away from the circle. And I think those things are all really nice. Now, to meet the requirements of the class, you might have to rethink some of those design moves just because I don't want you to miss points just based on the rubric. Um, and so you've got some really fun things going on. You've got some interesting shapes. The sailboat shape is really nice. I like how you've layered some of these shapes to add some dimensionality to your design. I like how you have these interesting shapes. I'm not sure if they're waves or seaweed or this one almost looks like a fish. But I think they're really interesting shapes that you have going on. Maybe it's even an upside down. I was trying to figure that out actually. Like if this is sand and this is water. Um, but either way, I think it's a really nice design. Um, so what I am going to suggest, probably the main thing I'm going to suggest, um, really there's a couple of things, but the sailboat. So in the final, I'm going to open up the rubric here. All right, so it looks like you got an obvious color scheme, a nice complementary color scheme. You did mention that this sand color was light orange, so I'm going to go ahead and give that to you. As far as colors are clean and not muddy, it shows me that you're able to mix paint and make it look good together. Effective use of color saturation. That's one that I'm going to give you a suggestion on. I would recommend uh, um, just trying to decide if how to do this. Um, I think what you've done is actually pretty good. What I was going to suggest is um, usually you want to save your most saturated color for your focal point. And so you've got a nice saturated color on your focal point, but you also have these really saturated orange shapes pointing in toward your focal point. I was going to suggest making this a little more saturated, make these a little bit less saturated. Uh, but I like how you have some lights and some dark values. And so I'm going to leave that up to you. That's going to be kind of your design choice on if you want to do that because I don't want to have it be like your sailboat's your only um, dark color, dark value on there. Let's see. So I'm actually going to kind of take that back and let you decide. Okay, you've got some good dominance and subordination, emphasis, crept. Okay, so this is the main thing that you're going to need to fix is your focal point. As you can see, it's worth 8 points, so that will bring you down almost a whole grade. And so what we need to do is we need to have your focal point within the rule of thirds or the golden section. So right now your focal point is almost right in the middle of the design. And so you're going to have to figure out a way to put your focal point within one of these golden section quadrants. So right here, right here, right here, or right here. I would suggest going this way. It has a more positive connotation to have the sailboat kind of sailing into the future. Um, that would be my suggestion. And so you might have to rethink how you're doing the background here with the circle shape on this background. So you're gonna want to move that sailboat somehow up in here. So I don't know if you want to get rid of this circle shape. It's a really fun design element. Maybe you make it a little bit larger and crop off on the edges, and then you'll have a little bit more freedom to put your focal point in where you want it. Um, and so that's the main thing on the rubric that I think that you'll get marked down on, because everything else really looks really good. And so then the only other suggestion I'm going to give you is you've got these triangle shapes that come in, and they're really nice. I really like how they layer and they, break the edge of the circle. I think those are really smart, uh, fun design moves. But what I'm going to suggest is when you have a diagonal line coming into your composition, and you've got a few of these because they're creating this diagonal line, these diagonal lines, they kind of act as arrows, and they are, so the viewer's eye is going to follow those arrows. And I'm glad that you made them point towards your focal point. That's a really good move. It's leading the eye in. But sometimes it can be a little bit overbearing to have so many shapes that are telling the viewer where to look. And so what I would recommend doing is just altering these shapes. You can still keep them in, but maybe turn them so that the bottom edge of the shapes lines up or becomes parallel with these other lines that you have, because then it won't feel so much like an arrow. It might feel more like a mountain shape, or some part of the landscape, but it's still a design. It would still work well in the design, but it won't be so obvious to say, hey, look at the sailboat. And so really those are the two main suggestions that I have for you, is to figure out a way to move the focal point into one of the four quadrants for the rule of thirds, and then adjust these arrow shapes so they're not quite, screaming, look at this sailboat. Other than that, I think I've really enjoyed to see your growth in the class, Annette, and I think you've done very, very well. I've appreciated your comments to your classmates in the discussion board. You're very sweet in your comments, and I've appreciated your participation in this class, and I'm glad that you've learned. It's always fun to have Pathway students come in to classes. I'm actually going to teach one of the Pathway classes. Most likely, they interviewed me to teach a Pathway class in the fall. And so I'm excited about having that opportunity as well. So I hope that you have enjoyed the class. Let me know if you have any questions. You can always text me like you have this semester, or email me. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I may or may not see your question in the discussion board. I check them, but sometimes I miss things. And so let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, good luck, and I wish you the best. All right, bye, Annette.